Hey, welcome everybody. Welcome again, Katie.
Thank you.
Just thought I'd take a moment just to get everybody to introduce themselves. And so this session is going to be about manifestation for business, which Katie's going to present shortly. And if there's something you want to sort of say to Katie about, what you know about manifestation, if you know a lot about it, if you know a little, I'm sure there'll be opportunities for questions again, which Katie will probably add at the end. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
yeah,
Brilliant. Okay, so just a couple of things about yourself, what you do, and what you know about manifestation. Bex, do you want to go first?
yeah. I mean, we spoke on the last one, but I had a yoga business, and in fact, one of the main reasons why I'm so excited about today is because of some of the money issues, beliefs that I had when I was sort of running that. But now I've stopped doing that and I'm starting to do some pottery. And the idea is that I would like to sell some in the future. The ish, I say issue, the thing that I had was at one point I was going to stop and then I decided to carry on for a bit longer. But in that time, I had reduced the fees for the single class to match the bundle class, and I couldn't bring myself to raise the fees again. I'd sort of, and it just feels really uncomfortable asking people for money, even though it's a service that I'm providing. So I'm really looking forward to it because I think self-employment is definitely my future, so I need to get over this.
Good. Grace, anything from you? Tell us a little
Um,
bit about yourself.
Hello, I am Grace. I am a counsellor, and I specialise in teenagers, but I'm and adults and baby loss and bereavement, um, and I was talking to you this morning, Anne, and I'm thinking I'd like to kind of maybe. Um, change from baby blue, just some adults at the moment. So maybe, and I've covered kind of manifestations. I would say that I would use it in part of my therapy as part of sort of positive self-talk and affirmations. So I'm very interested to hear this tonight's talk about it, to learn more about how you're talking about it and see if that's something that I can use in with my clients, and also to see if I go so it's sort of dual purpose for me, really, if that makes sense.
perfect.
Thank you.
Brilliant. And just from my perspective, Katie, so it's not something we've really talked about a lot, is it? But I mean, some years ago, I read The Secret, and that's how the sort of interest in it started. Really, I've read a few books. I did my coaching course with a woman called Mandy Morris. It's her organization. She's known for her manifestation stuff, so I've kind of learnt bits from that. And I've manifested all sorts of stuff, and from parking spaces to a house, which is it's a bit of a long story. I won't go into that now. Um, but I have used it and I would like to use it more to sort of attract the clients that I want. And I have done that to some extent. I just seem to sort of go off the, I just seem to just not be consistent with it. As in, my negative self-talk can come in and I know that affects it. So I'm really interested to hear sort of how that can work for, bringing in more business. Money would be great too.
Mhm.
But that sort of, I think I do have a money block somewhere, but that's a whole other story. So but thank
Okay,
you for taking the time today to do this for us.
no problem, no problem. Right, I'm going to share my screen and then uh, let me know that you can see it okay. Can you all see that all right?
Yeah, thank you.
Perfect. Now I'm just going to, you get these annoying toolbars come up, so I'm just going to try and drag it out the way. Okay,
So I think it's only Grace that hasn't met me before, but I'm Katie and I have two businesses. One of them is a marketing company where I help businesses with social media and all of their marketing stuff. And the other business I have is the manifesting mindset. And in that business, I really help people to manifest the life that they can't stop thinking about, that life when they put their head on the pillow at night and they think, oh, I wish I was doing this, or I wish I had this. That's what I help them to achieve. So I started out with manifesting, learning about it about 12 years ago now. And that was really because I was a struggling single parent. I had all the money issues, all the loneliness, all the sadness, all of the Groundhog Day kind of life. And I just wanted something different. So I started learning from a self-development perspective. And then my journey just continued. And as I started to manifest more and more of the life that I wanted, I then started working with the leading voices in manifestation to actually really get under the bonnet of what manifesting is, how it works. Because there's a lot of stuff out there that's just not true, that's peddled as social media crap. So I like to, well, what does that say? I stand very strongly on my hill, knowing what works and more importantly, what doesn't work. So we'll be going through quite a bit today. What I would say is, I'm sure as we go through, there will be little things that prod at you and make you feel like, oh, that's me. If that's the case, that's brilliant, because the first step to changing anything is an awareness of it. So just keep going with it. And if you have any questions, what I would ask you to do is write them down, and then we'll have some questions at the end, because sometimes I might cover what you're already thinking. So if that's okay, I'll get started. So if I can get, oh God, I'm trying to get it. There we go. Okay. So I help people to manifest anything that they want, whether that's relationships, money, business. But today, that's what we're talking about, is the business. And starting and running a business is bloody tough. You know, if you've already done it, you know this. If you're just about to do it, you already know it's a very scary thing. Even if you've got a good mindset, it's still tough running a business. But when you can learn to manifest it intentionally, that will actually help. Now, I have two identities that I talk to my clients about when it comes to manifesting. The first one is an unaware manifester, and the second one is an intentional creator. So throughout this talk today, I'll be helping you to explore how you can shift from being an unaware manifester to an intentional creator. And I'll tell you a little bit more about those two identities. But first, I'd love to know, you've sort of talked a little bit about why you're here today, but I'd love to know your thoughts about what your beliefs are about how you make manifesting happen. So what are some of the things that you have to do to make manifesting happen? And you can just shout those out for me.
Having a clear vision.
Okay.
Yeah.
Raising your vibration, my
Okay.
understanding.
I think I would say just becoming conscious, really conscious of actually what it is you're wanting, you know,
Okay.
what you're doing towards that.
Perfect. And have you tried anything to manifest, anything specific that you've ever tried to do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What, like what?
I've had some very interesting things. Actually, it was Anne that introduced me to the wonderful world that is manifesting. And one of the first little tests that I did was trying to manifest a butterfly in, I think it was March.
Yeah.
And it was 48 hours, and it was like 15 minutes to the time that I'd set. And I almost still can't believe it. Out of nowhere, after going down B&Q in the garden centre to try and help my odds, the tiniest butterfly you've ever seen just came in and landed on the plant next to me and then left again.
Amazing.
It was, I couldn't make it up.
Love that.
That's amazing. Yeah,
Love it.
I journal a lot. I do a lot of journaling, and I find writing things down, what I wanted, being quite specific. I find that quite helpful to focus that vision.
Yep, perfect. Thank you. Just gives me a little bit of an idea of things that you might have tried before. So first up, I want to start with some misconceptions about manifesting, and I will explain why they're misconceptions. So the first thing is that manifestation is passive. There is this big misconception that you just have to think about the thing that you want and it will suddenly magically appear. And that's not true. Because if that was true, I would have Ryan Reynolds downstairs right now cooking me dinner, and I would have a Range Rover out the front being washed down by Brad Pitt. It just doesn't happen. So just thinking about what you want, and it just doesn't work, or we'd already have what we wanted. And it's the same thing when it comes to manifestation and thinking positively. Just thinking positively about something doesn't make it manifest. I don't know if you've ever been in a situation where maybe you went for a job interview or you went on a date and you thought, oh, this is going to go well, this is great. And then it just didn't work out that way, even though you felt positively about it. So manifestation is not reliant upon thinking positively. And there is, again, another misconception that success is about force and making something happen. So doing these things that make manifestations occur. Again, not true. A lot of my clients who want success in business often will say to me, this feels hard. It's hard to get clients. It's hard to market the business. It's hard to get the money that I want. So I'm obviously not manifesting it correctly. And that is a huge misconception. I'll explain why in a little bit, but just for now, just know that that is a big misconception. Also, manifesting is something that you choose to do, is probably one of the biggest misconceptions out there. I would love £1 for every time somebody said to me, oh, I've tried to manifest, or they say, oh, I need to get back into manifesting. Because the thing is, manifesting is something you do all of the time, whether you want to or not. It's like breathing. You know how you just breathe? It just happens. But you can choose to take control of your breathing. You can choose to slow your breathing down or speed it up, or to change the way that you breathe. The same is true of manifesting. You are a manifester. The choice is whether you choose to take control of it or not. But the biggest misconception by far is using gimmicky techniques. So here's why some of these things don't work. So when I say gimmicky techniques, I'm talking about affirmations, vision boards. Those are the faddy techniques I'm talking about. Now, they are important tools in manifestation, but too many people lead with those things, when in actual fact, they're just icing on the cake actions. And the reason for that is those things are surface level. I call them conscious mind manifesting actions. When we want something to appear in our life, our conscious mind will automatically go to the place of what's the plan? How are we going to get there? What's the logical step to take? And that's why things like affirmations and vision boards really speak to us as human beings, because it is a tangible thing that we think we can do to get the result that we want. But our conscious mind is not the part of us that's responsible for manifesting. It's our subconscious mind that gets us to the results that we have. So until you address anything that's happening subconsciously, affirmations, vision boards, anything like that just can't work, because they're just the icing on the cake stuff. But they're not as interesting to talk about on social media. It's not as interesting to talk on social media about things like doing the inner work and stuff like that. People want to know, okay, I can say this affirmation 50 times a day for 100 days and then I'll be a millionaire. That sounds more interesting than doing the inner work, which is why it's snowballed a lot of the time in the mainstream media into something that it's not. And these faddy techniques create this false sense of control. And then that leads to frustration when results don't appear. And again, If you doubt this, then I would ask if you've ever said affirmations for anything, if you didn't get it, that's all the evidence you need that affirmations and things like that alone will not manifest anything different. Manifesting actually starts with who you believe you are, your identity. And if your identity doesn't match the goal that you're trying to manifest, then no technique that you will ever do can bridge that gap. So ultimately, you have to stop being the unaware manifester. So the unaware manifester, as I said, you're always manifesting, but without awareness, you could be creating the opposite of what you desire, because what's happening subconsciously, a result of your stories, societal conditioning, your upbringing, those are all the things that could be happening under the surface without you realizing. So I, as a child, was from a single parent family, and my mum struggled for money a lot. And one of the most common things I always heard was, money doesn't grow on trees. Money's really hard to get. It's so easy to spend all your money. I have to pay all these bills. I've never got any money. And that was the story that I grew up with. I grew up with this story that money was this precious commodity that you had to really hold on to tightly, and you could lose it so easily. And it was really hard to get hold of. Now, as I grew older and I had a good job, without me realizing, it was still that subconscious story of money was this precious commodity that you had to hang on to, and it was difficult to get. That's what was driving my manifestations. So I was constantly in debt. I found life really difficult, and I couldn't understand why, because I was quite positive about money. But it's because it was these underlying stories that were actually driving the results in my life, because I was always operating from this place of fear. So when it comes to being an unaware manifester, most of the time, you're an unaware manifester if you're operating surface level. So if you're thinking about what you want and you feel positive about it, you're not really examining what's happening beneath the surface, and you're just trying to focus on, I can get this, and just trying to change your mindset without really going too deep. And you might find that you have, as I've said, like conflicting beliefs. So you might feel really positive about running a business, but there's something in you that's telling you that success is really hard to get and money's not really a nice thing. I'm sure you've heard many people that say money is the root of all evil, all of those kinds of things. Or you might be thinking, am I cut out for this? You put something out on social media and it doesn't do as well as you want it to, and you immediately get that story that comes up about not being good enough. So you might also find, as an unaware manifester, you might find that you're inconsistent in your actions. So you might speak to your friends and your family about wanting a successful business, but you actually find that you're acting from fear. So underpricing or avoiding visibility, not putting yourself out there. Again, that's a big, huge sign that there's something going on in the surface, under the surface, that's stopping you from manifesting the business that you want. And that is a trait of the unaware manifester, saying one thing, but actions are doing something else. There's also emotional driven manifesting, which is a trait of the unaware manifester. And that can be where you're letting frustration, doubt, impatience guide your decisions. So you find that you're doing something almost out of desperation. So if your reality isn't matching your goals, your self-imposed focus, identity, that's a huge sign that you're out of alignment. And that is a few of the traits of the unaware manifester. So on the flip side, an intentional creator, this is what I would want for everybody that I work with, to shift from being an unaware manifester to an intentional creator. And it starts from one simple place: examining and evolving your identity. And when I say identity, I mean your sense of self, who you believe yourself to be. The intentional creator focuses on moving towards what they want rather than running away from something that they don't want. Might sound similar. It's a very different thing when it comes to manifesting. I did it in jobs. I would want more money because I had debt, huge racked up amounts of debt. So I would try and go for these promotions. And in my head, I felt really positive about going for them. But actually, it was a fear mindset that was trying to force me towards those jobs because I needed to get out of debt. It wasn't success driven. The intentional creator knows the difference, and they focus on moving towards the things that they want. And the intentional creator knows how to align their beliefs, their thoughts, and their actions with their goals. So it's like a river running, and it's all going in the same direction. Everything is moving in the same direction. And even if they come across a boulder in the middle of the river, they just flow over it and keep going. That's the trait of an intentional creator. And intentional creators don't rely on gimmicks. They don't trust in affirmations. They don't focus on vision boards. They trust their inner alignment to guide them. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about, if you know anything about manifesting, you will have heard about the law of attraction, which is a huge part of manifestation. But there are actually 12 universal laws. The law of attraction is just one of those 12. One of the other really important ones, particularly in business, is the law of rhythm. And the law of rhythm is really about knowing that success isn't a linear process. Intentional creators understand and trust the law of rhythm. You know how you can have a period of really happy time, and then you might have something really challenging. The law of rhythm tells us that to be successful in manifestations, we have to learn to go with those rhythms. So like night follows day, follows night, follows day. Spring always follows winter. After a difficult time, there will always be light. But after the light, there will always be a difficult time. And it's learning about how to go with that flow, even when it feels difficult, accepting that those rhythms are going to happen. And when they do, you're ready for the ride and you're ready to just go with them. Too many people feel like once they hit a tough time, it means they're not successfully manifesting the future that they want. But that's just not true, because the law of rhythm tells us everything has to keep going. Everything has seasons. When you identify as a successful person, you trust then that any setbacks that you come up against are just recalibrations and not failures. And I think too many people, I think listening to some of you today before we started, people are very hard on themselves. And, you know, having a tough time in business or having a fear, having a worry is okay. It's about what you do with that knowledge, what you do with that knowledge of that fear, whether you choose to attack it head on and get past it, but don't ever feel that it's you doing something wrong. It's probably just that you're going through one of these seasons that the law of rhythm talks to us about. I just wanted to throw that in there because it's a law that's not often talked about, but it is hugely important, particularly in business. So as you all correctly said, clarity is key. Intentional creators have clarity about their goals and they know why they want them. This comes back to what I was talking about a little while ago about, are you running away from something or towards something? The universe always responds to certainty. But that said, it's okay to change your plans. Again, I have a lot of people that focus on manifesting something so hard and then they might get it or they might not get it. And they say, do you know what? Actually, I've changed my mind. I don't want this anymore. That's okay. Part of evolving as a spiritual being is learning to take that evolution and grow and change. As long as you're certain, that's fine. You could be certain for a day. You could be certain for a month. That's absolutely okay. So don't worry about changing your plans. But without clarity, without knowing what you want and knowing why you really want it, your energy will become fragmented and it leads to scattered results. So if you find that in business, things are very up and down, not seasonal, as we learn in the law of rhythm. If you find that one day things are great, the next day things feel awful, the next day things are okay, great, awful, great, okay, good. If you find that, I would say that there's something missing in your clarity. Usually it's the reason that you want something. It's re-examining, is this a fear-led manifestation I'm working on or a success-driven one? And clarity, again, is tied to your identity. So once you can ask yourself, who do I need to become to achieve the goal? Then it makes the goal become more achievable, because you're not focusing on that one thing. You're focusing on who you need to be to get to that thing. The thing is there, whatever it is, whether it's a 6-figure business or 10 new coaching clients, whatever it is you want is already there. Your part in it is figuring out who you need to become to get yourself there. That's it. And that's how clarity is tied to identity. But that's often the part that's missed. People will tell me what they want to manifest in business, what they want their business to look like, but they never do the work on their identity. So who do they need to become to actually get those results? So instead of chasing things like 6 figures, focus on becoming someone who naturally attracts 6-figure opportunities, somebody who shows up like a 6-figure business owner. Intentional creators show up as though they already have the success that they want. They already have the results. And you will hear a common phrase in manifesting, which says, act as if. And that never really resonated with me, because acting is pretending. So I tell my clients, you don't act as if, you be as if. You be the person who already has the business that you want. And I remember having a conversation with my mum. My marketing business hit a really rocky patch about 2 years ago. And over the course of 3 or 4 days, I lost 80% of my clients. Some of them decided they didn't want to run businesses anymore. Some of them decided that they were going to bring somebody in-house to do their marketing. It was like all these different things. And it wiped out 75, 80% of my income in very short space of time. And I was okay with it, because I thought, okay, this is the law of rhythm. This is what's happening. This is happening because something else is coming. Something will come, because I know that I am that person. I am that successful person. So something has to come. And I spoke to my mum, and she nearly had a breakdown on me. She was like, oh my God, are you not worried? You're on your own. How are you going to pay your mortgage? How are you going to pay your bills? Why are you not worrying? And I said, because it will be fine. I know it will be fine. I just have to get through this and just ride the wave of it. And she was ringing me virtually every day for about just under a week. Are you worried? Are you scared yet? Are you not worrying? What are you going to do? Should you start looking for a job? And I said, no, it will be fine. And within a week and a half, I got approached on LinkedIn, and I won the biggest contract that my business has ever had. And I couldn't have took that on if I'd have had all these other clients. So having that trust, I trusted that the person I was, even though my results weren't looking like it at the time, I knew that future Katy, that was running this hugely successful business, knew that it would be okay. Therefore, Katy of today had to know that it was okay. And I had to ride that wave and just trust that everything was going to turn out. So I didn't act as if I was Katy of the future. I called myself Katy Kardashian, because love them or hate them, the Kardashians are phenomenal businesswomen. And it was always something that just stuck with me. And I would think, okay. And I used to think, what would Katy Kardashian do versus Katy of today? And I would kind of go along those roads. So you just have to act. You don't have to act as if, you have to be as if, no matter what anybody else is telling you. Because the actions that you take come from the belief of who you are. If I had believed and bought into the fact that my business was failing, that it was all going to go wrong, I would have maybe taken a job. I would have maybe stopped posting on LinkedIn and would never have seen the opportunity. Anything could have happened if I had chosen to believe what was happening. My actions would have been very different. I chose to believe that the future version of me was already successful. All I had to do was step into that identity now, show up as them, have the thoughts they had, the beliefs that they had, took the actions that she took, and the results would follow. The business owner who sees themselves as struggling is acting from scarcity, while someone that identifies as successful acts from abundance. And that's the difference. It's okay to feel scared, as long as you've got that deep-rooted belief that you know it's going to be okay. So as you can probably guess by now, identity is the big thing that I talk about. It is the number one thing that you need to focus on to manifest anything in your life, because your results are a reflection of who you believe you are. You'll see a lot of stuff on social media that says, the universe wants you to be happy. The universe is on your side. The universe wants you to succeed. None of that is true. The universe is just a mirror. It just reflects back what you put into it. Whatever you believe yourself to be is what you'll see as results in your life. And you can't manifest what you want if your identity doesn't align with what you want, because who you are creates what you have. So to manifest success, you have to align your identity first with that future version of success. And if that feels difficult, do what I did. Who do you look up to in business? Who do you think is doing an amazing job in business? Study them. Look at what they do, look at what they say, look at the actions that they take, the beliefs, watch interviews with them. What do they say about running a business? And start to see how you can incorporate those things into your life. So a big part of running a business, as I said, like I've had my own struggles with money in business. And again, manifesting money is about shifting your identity to align with abundance, because beliefs like money is scarce or I don't deserve wealth just creates resistance. So you have to get under the bonnet of your own beliefs. I would encourage you, piece of paper, if money is something that comes up for you, take a piece of paper, quiet room, sit down and write all of your money stories. These could be things that you were taught as a child about money. These could be experiences you've had about money that have taught you something. If I were to ask you, tell me about money, what would be the things that you write? Don't think about it too much, just let it flow onto the paper. And I can pretty much guarantee when you look at that, your money story will be really clear and you will know exactly where you're at with manifesting more money. I certainly was. Mine was just filled with really awful stuff about money. And I thought I was really positive about money because I was excited about getting it. But I didn't realize that my money stories were all working against me. And once you know those money stories, you can then start tackling them with, you can do various techniques. I don't have time, obviously, to go through all of those today, but reframing, there's so many different techniques that you can use to change those deep-rooted money stories. And it's shifting your focus from how can I get more money to who do I need to be to attract that wealth. Takes a little bit of the pressure off. Stop chasing money and start becoming the future version of you, and the money will come. Because here's the thing, money's just a tool. If you've got a pile of money, £1 million sat in your house, in your living room, it's not doing anything. It's a tool. What you want is what money can give you in terms of experiences, feelings, helping other people in your family. And that's what you should focus on trying to manifest not the tool itself. So another big part of manifesting is trusting divine timing. And intentional creators trust the process and timing of their manifestations. So they release attachment. And you hear this a lot. You've got to release attachment. And you think, if you're anything like me, I used to think, well, how can I be really positive about something, really want it, but then also not want it and let go of the attachment? And it's the difference between obsessing over something versus knowing that something is happening, that inner knowing, because it's trust that allows that ease and the alignment to flow, like that river analogy that I said, just the river to flow naturally without resistance. Because successful creators trust that everything unfolds in their favor. They don't question it, they never worry about it, they just know it. I tell my clients that manifesting and trusting is like ordering from Amazon. So you can put your order into Amazon. You don't have to sit there and watch the people packing it. You don't have to watch them putting it on the truck. You don't have to watch them driving around doing all of their deliveries to know that it's coming. You place your order and then you just wait. And you might be excited. If, like me, you're a bit of a Amazon junkie and you buy all these weird and wonderful contraptions, and I sit and I get excited knowing it's coming, but I don't have to see it coming in the background to know that it is coming. I just wait and I just get ready for it to appear. Same is true of manifesting. If you feel like manifesting something is too big, that's a sign that your identity isn't aligned. Because people will often say, oh, I decided to manifest £5 and I did it. And I'm so proud of myself. But that's because it's £5. It doesn't feel like a big thing. But manifesting anything should feel like that. It does to me. I mean, granted, I haven't got Ryan Reynolds downstairs cooking my dinner yet, but you can manifest anything you want. The only limitations are the ones that you put on your abilities. And that comes from your sense of identity, who you believe you are and what you believe you can achieve. So overcome setbacks by using that law of rhythm. Setbacks are probably the only inevitable thing in business. No matter who you are, you read any autobiography by any successful business owner, they've always had setbacks. And the law of rhythm is one of the ways that you can just keep going with it, because setbacks are recalibrations, not failures. Every success has seasons: planting, growing, harvesting. And viewing setbacks as part of that rhythm will build resilience, and it will also build trust, because you'll know that better times always follow the darker times. And when you embody the identity of someone who always succeeds, those setbacks are just stepping stones to what you want. It's like a GPS. When you put a destination into your Google map and maybe you go wrong, or maybe there's a detour, you don't worry about that end result. You're just looking at the next direction in front of you. And that's all you need to focus on, because you know that, okay, I trust that the GPS is going to get me there one way or another. Have that same belief in what you can manifest in your life. So your first steps towards having an aligned identity. Get that clarity, not just what you want, but also why you want it. Remember that success versus fear. Are you running from something or towards something? The next thing is to start aligning your identity. Ask yourself, who are you now? And who do you need to become? What are the habits, the beliefs, the thoughts, the actions of the successful version of you that has the business that you want? And who are you right now? Where are the gaps? How can you bridge those gaps? What are the stories that you're replaying in your own mind about business and money? And trust and act. Take inspired, aligned action whilst you're embracing the journey and trusting in the universal Amazon store to deliver what you want. You're doing your part by showing up as the person you need to be. So all you have to do then is let the universe deliver the goods. And that's your whistle-stop tour of manifestation in business. I would love to have any questions.
Thank you, Katie. That was amazing. I'm buzzing. I've got so many notes here. So I have a question, but I'll see if anybody else has got some first.
I've got some, but you go first because we know
Your questions were brilliant last time,
You're
Bex.
really good to have on one of these
Yeah,
calls,
you go
Bex,
first, and
because
then
you
we
just
can.
ask loads of questions. I
Yeah,
love it.
you go first, Bex.
where do I start? So I guess one of the big ticket questions that I've got is, how are there different ways that you can define clarity to define what you want? Because I've, manifested things, jobs and stuff like that,
Yeah.
and that the manifestations come from my head because I've been unclear about what I want.
Okay.
In the moment, I was sure that that was what I want, but it wasn't. It was coming from my head rather
Got
than
it.
my heart.
Yes.
So, how do you go about knowing, or at least tapping into it coming from the right place rather
Yeah.
than the place?
Got it. So what I do is it's almost like an onion approach. So I will say it was a job, for example, a certain job. I would ask myself, why do I want that job? What's it going to give me? And I write that down. And then I say, okay, so for example, it might be it's going to give me a pay rise. And I might say, okay, so why do I need the pay rise? What's the pay rise going to give me? And it might be, oh, I can afford to whatever. It could be that I'm going to be able to afford to go on holiday, or I'm going to be able to afford to repay some debts. And then I start asking myself, is this the only option?
Mm.
Is there another option that feels more aligned? Or is it something I'm clinging to because I'm trying to run away from that feeling of not being able to pay my credit card bill or whatever it might be, or I want some security with my finances? It's really about asking yourself all the questions and going deeper and deeper and deeper.
Mm.
Because just because something's more money or whatever, that won't immediately feel wrong. It's only when you start to uncover those reasons. So that's where I was saying about, are you running away from something or towards something? What is that deeper purpose? Why is it that you really want it? Because the first thing that you think of is never going to be the reason.
Yeah, don't I know it?
Exactly. So it's really about giving yourself that grace to have some, we call it in the manifesting industry, sitting in the silence and allowing yourself that time to just sit and be and let the answers come to you. What am I really doing this for? And you will get the answers. I know it sounds really simple, but it is. Most of the time, we live in such a busy, fast life, we don't give ourselves the time to just think. And sometimes when you can reconnect with yourself and really ask yourself those difficult questions, you will get the answers that you need. And also trust your gut instinct. I've done it before where I used to apply for jobs and I would be almost dreading getting an interview offer. And that was a huge sign in itself that I didn't really want it. It was for the wrong reason.
Yeah, that gut thing is it's a tricky one because do you know what? I'm going to stop there. I'll let Anne the question before I
That's
go
a
into
good
my
question. It's a really good question. So mine, Katie, is about you can't always dictate who you spend your life with. Whether it's parents, it's their influence, whether it's close friends or co-workers and things. And
Yeah.
as you know, I'm ex-military, and
Mm-hmm.
if I talked about this in the crew room 4 or 5 years ago, I'd probably got laughed at.
Yeah.
Anyway, but my point is that if you're trying to become a different identity in a circle of people who don't buy that,
Mm-hmm.
How do you maintain that? How do you not be influenced by those sort of more negative people, perhaps?
Yeah, and that is a tough one. That is a tough one. I've always had a very supportive family, but my family think I'm absolutely cock-a-doodle-doo with all of this stuff. But it's only when they've seen the results that they're like, okay, there's something in it now. You really do have to learn to drown that noise out and let your success speak for itself. I'm not a believer that you have to go around shouting from the rooftops, I'm a manifester. I believe in the universe delivering me something. Da, 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 da. I I show people with my results. That's
Mm.
it.
Mm.
And every doubt I receive is a challenge to me. Every single doubt is another challenge that I'm going to prove them wrong. I don't say it, I just let them have their opinion because I'm never ever going to let people place their limitations on my life. And that's what they're doing. They're operating from their own stories, their own limiting beliefs.
Yeah.
That's not going to infiltrate my life.
Yeah.
Just let your success speak for itself. Just show up and do the thing. Become the future version of you. And it's another crucial time to ask yourself, what does future successful version of Anne think?
Mm. Yeah.
I can guarantee she probably says, I don't care what people think.
Mm. That's
And
good.
that's how you
That's good.
show up now.
Yeah, we were kind of talking about this a bit today, Grace, about sort of surrounding ourselves with people that lift us up, weren't we? And
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
about that, isn't it? And doing more of that, more of people that fill your cup and
Yeah.
make you feel uplifted,
Yeah.
Yeah. And then that
isn't it?
manifests itself, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Because if you're doing this, you of friends that don't make you feel good or aren't on your journey with you. So then by
Yeah.
whether you're aware of it or not, you will kind of stay away from them, or you wouldn't share, for example, that you were thinking about this manifestation and you were trying it. You wouldn't share that with, say, one of your friends that's like, I don't know, like a really great party friend, say,
No.
they make you laugh and you get drunk with them. But if you talk to them about something like this and they just laughed at you, you wouldn't share it. And then you can't, so you sort of unconsciously deviate away from
Yeah.
people. And
Yeah.
then that helps you as well with your
Mm.
confidence because
Mm.
then you're selecting what you're doing, aren't you, I suppose?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, like, the thing is, this is a huge part of my life. Obviously, I'm mentoring people all over the world. But in my personal life, there's very few people that I actually talk to about it because it's my journey. And in my head, that would be like me calling some of my friends and saying, let me tell you how I was breathing yesterday. I breathed in, I breathed out, I breathed in, I breathed out. And then this happened. Then I held my breath for a bit. For me, that's the same as man. It's just something I do. It's not something that needs an explanation. I'm taking intentional control of my life. And that's it. And I only surround myself with people that, whether they believe in manifestation or not, I only surround myself with people that make me feel good, selfish as that may sound. And the wrong people have naturally fallen out of my life, more so over the last few years. And I'm good with that. I'm absolutely fine with that.
Cool. Thank you.
I've got more. It's kind of linked to my last question. Uh, I've done the Ideal Day from Martha Beck, her book where you sort of imagine you go through very fine details of what your ideal day would look like, and I find that a lot of detail is missing. Is that meaning that I'm not clear? I'm not clear on things yet. Then.
So going through your ideal day is lovely, but it is one of those faddy techniques
Okay.
because knowing what your perfect day is isn't going to make it manifest if you don't believe you can have it.
Okay.
I could sit here now and think about whatever I want to think about and visualize it on a very, very, very detailed level. but it doesn't mean it's going to happen if my identity isn't aligned to the person that's going to show up and believe and act as that person.
Yeah.
Now, what I would say is I teach my clients not to visualize the future, but to have future memories.
Okay.
I think trying to visualize a whole day is too much. So, you know, when you have a memory of something, you go all in on that one moment in time and you remember it with detail, and it's just a moment in time. I teach my clients to have future memories.
Okay.
So they have memories of the future that are in such detail, but they're just snippets of time.
Yeah.
Because that's all you need, just to keep your subconscious mind focused on what you're trying to get to. But when you try and draw it out to like this perfect day, and then your mind wanders onto what I'm having for dinner, and you can't, it's unsustainable. You just can't do it. But also, it's not really getting you into a place for manifestation.
Okay.
Does that help?
Yeah. Yeah.
Can I ask a question then on that? Because
Yeah.
so I'm a bit confused now.
Yeah.
So in terms of, creating that identity, which would, have part of that, that would be part of that identity of, what would my perfect day look like when, I've got the house that I wanted, the business that I wanted, all of that. Is that not a tool that can support that at all? I can't really,
It
I
can, but
must have missed something, but
it's when you're thinking about the future version of you, it's not about how you're spending your day in that great granular detail. It's about what are the habits of that person? What are the
Right.
beliefs of that person? Now, it could be, I could sit here and think future successful version of me goes in. I don't visualize that on a deep level. I just need to know that future successful version of me goes to the gym every day. So there's that element of visualization, but not on the granular detail that a lot of people will teach. It's more about knowing who that person is, what they believe, what they stand for, what they don't stand for, what their habits are, and what their actions are, rather than sitting and imagining yourself in this futuristic world.
So just to sort of paraphrase that, my understanding is it's like your future inner work done in a better place.
Yeah,
Your future beliefs,
absolutely.
right? Okay.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. Okay.
I wish it was as easy as just sitting and imagining your perfect day, because that would be great.
Well, that's where I came up against. Well, am I trying to think this, or am I actually feeling this?
Yeah.
I've got a. I don't. I'm in an iron whether to ask it, because I don't know if it's fully formed in my head yet. But I'm trying to ask something along the lines of, how do you know if it's sort of going off a little bit? How do you know if you're when you're interacting with people, and say you notice that you think that someone is perhaps not being the best, not radiating the right vibes out to you, how do you know that that is the case, that it's them that isn't supportive of you, or whether it is your own limiting beliefs? I've described that terribly. I'm really sorry. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
I think so. I would say, don't worry about it. Doesn't matter. The fact is, you're feeling something that needs investigating. And when again you sit in the silence, you do that in a why are they making you feel like that? You have to get to those answers, but you can only do that when you start unpeeling the onion, and you will get there. Is it might be a limiting belief, but then I don't know. When you walk in a room sometimes and you can feel the energy in the room, or there'll be someone, if you've ever walked into a room and there's somebody that you really don't like being around. And I always feel like you can feel the energy shift versus someone says something and it makes your hackles go up and you think, okay, that's on me. That's a belief that I have. I think you can tell the difference if you trust yourself to. But don't worry too much about this stuff, because too often people let outside influences come in and then they start thinking, do they like me? Do they hate me? Is it me that hates them? Are they trying to stop me? Am I trying to stop them? What's this all about? Just stick to your lane. What do you want? What do you want to achieve? It doesn't matter what anyone else thinks. It doesn't matter if you like them or if they don't support you or if it's your limiting belief, because you'll uncover that in your identity work. If there is a limiting belief to be uncovered, you will uncover it.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it.
Okay.
Oh, look at Grace's dog. Oh.
Anything
Yeah,
else,
and I would
Grace?
say I would add to that. I'd add to that as a counselor, like, if I was counseling you in terms of like that negative belief, if your mind will subconsciously look for evidence to back you up in the negative, because it's always going to look out for you in the negative, because that's, just a staying alive instinct.
Mm.
So if you're kind of subconsciously telling yourself to be aware of people doing you over or not liking you or whatever, you will hone in on that, whether you want to or not. You will be looking for that evidence of that tiger hide there with you. And while you're doing that, whilst, millions of years ago that would have saved your life, it will currently stop you from sort of, moving forward, because your brain will be preoccupied with looking for the negatives. And we do have a negative bias in our brain just to keep us alive, so that when we back in the day caught a lion, no, what did we cut? We caught a deer or whatever we was eating in those days. We have a negative bias that we don't like then leap around for an hour going, aren't I a brilliant hunter? I'm ace, I'm ace, I'm ace. And then in the meantime, that we've got so excited about how clever we are that, so, if you apply that principle, that's why we're all slightly negative, because it keeps us alive, because otherwise we'd be crazy backslapping fools.
Like me.
That's
But
amazing.
you
Thank
see
you,
how
Grace. Yeah.
everything that we speak about ultimately comes down to your sense of self.
Yeah.
Your identity, everything, even what Grace was just saying about, ultimately will come down to what you choose to observe around you. That's down to your identity and what you choose to believe.
Yeah.
And that's why everything I teach, the core of everything is your identity and your sense of self, because it really does springboard for everything else that you see in your life.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you.
Anybody else? So Ross has had a bit of a nightmare with his internet. As you've seen, he's come in and out several times, but
Bless
I
him.
will send him the recording. So bless him. I think he was quite keen to join in, but he heard bits of it, didn't he? So, well, Katy, thank you very much again for yet another really amazing masterclass. I've written
Thank you.
huge numbers of notes here, and I've been furiously scribbling, but I will have this to watch back, which will be brilliant. So really, really appreciate it. And we're going to be doing another, which actually might lead really nicely. I've got another masterclass set up for January, which is entitled Unlocking Your Mind for Money Flow. So that might be quite a good one to follow on from that. And that's with Anna Wood, who is my coach. So I shall let you guys know details of that. So that'll be 16th of January. I think it's a Thursday. So. But anyway, thank you all for joining in, and I'll send you the link to the recording of this. And Katy, thank you very much for your time again today.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. Has everybody got the way of contacting you?
Thank you. It was really enjoyable.
Is there an email or anything? How would they get in touch with you if they
Yeah,
needed
so
to?
you can find me on Instagram. My handle is The Manifesting Mindset. I do have a podcast, but I talk more there. It's more about manifesting love, but I do talk about a lot of manifesting principles. That's called That Manifesting Podcast. Yeah, follow me there.
Super. Thanks very
Thank
much.
you very much.
Thank you, everybody.